I'm here today with Major Neill, the Executive Director of Law Enforcement Against Prohibition. Thank you for taking some time with us again.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So to start with, tell us, why did you come out to Netroots Nation?
Well, it came out to Netroots Nation because for the past couple of years, we've been a part of this event here. It's a great event. Excellent event for networking with people, especially on hot topics. And right now, the hot topic for me is the end of prohibition of marijuana. You know, we're really working hard to move things forward in California. It's extremely important because it affects so many parts of our community. So.
Okay, and tell us about the panel you sat on.
Oh, the panel we sat on regarding marijuana policy was absolutely wonderful. We got to talk to a decent group of people about why we need to move forward with this policy change, why it's so important. Everything from the prison population that we lead around the world, overwhelmingly we have more prisoners than anyone else, including China. It's unbelievable. So from our prison population bursting at the seams to the carnage in our neighborhoods, the deaths in our neighborhoods, the disease in our neighborhoods, the financial drain upon this country. It's unbelievable. We're putting so much money into the law enforcement effort here, everything from the initial arrest to the time they spend in prison. It costs thousands of dollars, and it's draining upon our country. It's also, marijuana is more accessible under prohibition to our children than if we were to regulate it and control it. Any kid will tell you that it's so much easier to get marijuana than alcohol and cigarettes because we don't regulate or control it.
Right now, and what do you think people at your panel took away from it?
Well, I think one of the things they took away is that, number one, it's okay to talk about this. It's okay to go back home and talk about it to your neighbors, to the moms that you know, to your representatives, either at the state or local level or even the federal level, that we're moving in this direction because we have no choice. We have to make the change. So it's okay to talk about it. And for the bloggers, it's okay to write about it.
Right, and I imagine as a law enforcement veteran, it's almost harder for you to say it's okay to talk about it.
Yeah, that's another thing. Even though there are no police officers here, that to my knowledge, but we do travel around now to law enforcement conventions to let them know that it's okay to talk about it. See, we know what police really want to do. Good police really want to be that staple in the community. They want that good relationship. They want to address those crimes of violence in the neighborhoods. They don't want to arrest somebody for smoking a joint. They want to arrest somebody who's a rapist. They want to arrest a pedophile. They want to arrest someone who is committing homicides, domestic violence, arson. That's what they want to do.
Okay. Now, I want to ask you about it. Early on, after President Obama was elected, when he held this town hall and he let people vote online for questions, one that rose very sharply to the top was about legalization and whether or not, how that would affect the economy.
Right.
And he sort of said, well, that's not the answer. What did you think of that?
Well, it's part of the answer, and that's just the thing regarding this topic. It reaches so many areas of our society, and of course the finance part is one of it. It will be a tremendous boost to our economy. I mean, there's no doubt about it. From two perspectives. Number one, we would literally save billions of dollars every year. No doubt about that. And number two, if it's done appropriately, the tax base that would be generated from this is also overwhelming. One thing I wanted to touch upon, because police officers and those employees in corrections think that if we move in this direction that we will be laying them off because there'll be less for them to do. But the one thing they have to realize is that we don't lay police officers off because there's less crime. We just shift our focus, like I said before, now they can focus upon those increasing crimes in other areas, crimes of violence. We lay police officers off when we have little funds to keep them, and that's where we're at now. Our cities and our states, their coffers are basically bare. They're in the negative category, and we have to lay off good public servants.
Okay. Now, obviously, one of the hot topics surrounding this issue right now is California.
Yeah.
And they're pressed with this ballot initiative.
Yes.
Can you tell us, what do you think about how that campaign is being run? And what do you think of the ballot initiative itself?
Well, first of all, the ballot initiative, I think it's excellent because it's going to give local jurisdictions in California to decide on how to regulate marijuana sales and distribution in their area. I think that's fantastic because then they get to choose and do the right thing, and they can really focus upon doing the right thing. The campaign itself, I think it's being run excellent, and the reason I say that is because you have unity of so many organizations involved here that are moving this forward. No one's out there doing their own thing. We're doing it as a collective, which is fantastic. Many of these organizations are here today at the conference, which is great. We get to network, we get to talk about the strategies, and it's wonderful. That was one of my concerns. It is no longer a concern.
Yeah, and I've been getting lots of emails in my mailbox of this group endorsed it, and this group endorsed it, and
Right.
this group endorsed it.
Right. Even the NAACP.
Yep.
Alice Huffman, president of the state conference for the NAACP, is on board with it. That is huge. That is huge. It is about time that the African American community step forward. We are most adversely affected by this. Great move.
Okay. And what about the opposition? I feel like I haven't seen the opposition. Is there an opposition in California?
There is an opposition. There is a small opposition from the clergy side, and there is still an opposition from corrections and maybe our narcotics unions, police unions. But I think if they really took the time to learn all the facts surrounding this, we've been fed this propaganda for years, for decades, and it's hard for many to make the turn. We have the momentum of the lies and propaganda that has been fed to us for decades. So yeah, it's that momentum is there in the wrong direction, and it's going to take a while to turn it. All I ask is that they take the time to educate themselves, and we can do that. For those law enforcement and corrections officials, we can do that. All they need to do is go to our website at leap.cc or copssaylegalizedrugs.com, and we'll help them understand.
Okay, and for people outside of California, what kind of hope do they have of reform? For those of us that don't live in California,
Right.
This may not really affect us.
True. This movement may not affect you. You may think it doesn't affect you, but really it does. First of all, prohibition affects you drastically because there's so many harms that are generated from the prohibition of marijuana. If we are successful with this effort in California, it will be one of the best things that could ever happen for the folks outside of California because they'll get to see that, hey, this is okay. This was a good thing, and we need to do it also.
Okay. Moving on, the majority of our viewers are grassroots activists. So
Yeah.
I always like to ask people, I'm sitting down with, I may have asked you this last time, but what can folks do to get involved in this movement?
Oh, wow. Well, the first thing, whether you're in California or not, first of all, if you're in California, vote for it. Okay, get out and vote for it. If you're not in California, I'm sure you know someone who lives in California. Get on the phone, send an email, and let them know that it's there and they need to go to the polls and they need to vote for it. Now, that's the first thing that needs to happen. Contact your representatives, your legislators at all levels, and let them know that, hey, as my representative, it is okay for you to move forward with this. It is okay for you to talk about this and come up with these to start working on regulation. It's okay. We want you to do it. And believe me, they do listen. They read, they may not personally read, but they have staffers that read your emails and keep track, answer the phone calls, and they do tally it up, and when they get enough, they do move in the right direction. So be that voice, be active, just do something.
Okay, well, thank you so much for talking with us today.
It's my pleasure. I thank you for having me.